This is the first successful launch of the Aegis Ashore system, and we've been waiting with bated anticipation to be able to talk with Riki today about this feat and what it's going to mean to all of us, every single one of us here in Hawaii and throughout the United States of America. Top of the morning to you, Rick.
Good morning from right here in Hawaii.
Now, I know you're here, and I know that, and I was listening to Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard watching from the mainland of this thing. This test, I don't know, is it the tip of is it the acme, was it the top of the pile?
Well, it's a revolutionary way we're going to do missile defense. It's a structure that can do launch on remote, having the interceptors away from the command and control structure, which gives you really an unlimited amount of capability to defend anything coming from the air and anything coming from the space. So it's the foundation of that.
You know, I'm guessing. Tell me how we're going to fill in the blanks here. But now that this test was successful, and you can tell us exactly why it was successful, now it's a matter of packaging this thing up and sending it right to Europe, ready to go.
That's right. The system is going to be used exactly like it is in Romania next year. So it's going to go live next year in Romania to protect all of Europe from ballistic missile threats. Then 2 years later, it's going to go into Poland. Same system to enhance the protection of Europe as well. It's also being looked at in Japan right now to protect Tokyo. So it's a comprehensive system. It was the first time that we shot out of the system. We wanted to make sure this system was built in the water. Basically, it was. Mm-hmm. From Aegis system, the ship system that we've had 28 successful intercepts on over the last 12 years. We've decided to shift it on ground. So it's going to be much more accurate because it's stable. We know where exactly it is. The communications are stable. We're able to prove that we can talk to that rocket. It's what we did 2 nights ago. We were able to prove that aspect of the launch it from where we're at and put it in the right direction and confirmed our ability to do this capability.
You know what I thought was terrific, and maybe you could just spend a minute talking about that. I remember back when we first hooked up about this all these years ago, when the tests were maybe 50-50. You know, maybe 50% of the time they had measurable success. There were a lot of failures, a lot of problems. And I notice now, it's not just my imagination, is that they are better and better and better. Doesn't that really explain the existence of Barking Sands and the importance of all these tests? Because now it's there's no more doubting Thomases. Everybody in the appropriations area and everybody else knows that this stuff works.
Yeah. It's been a great revolution from where it was a science project back in 1983 with President Reagan to where it is reality now, and countries are depending on its capability to defend their nation around the world. It's real on the regional aspect. We've gotten much better. We're continuing to get better. We still are working some bigger issues with the big ground-based system, which is a different system than this system that we've got to continue to work at. Mm-hmm. Barking Sands gives us 2.5 million square miles to be able to launch into. And this is even bigger in the future because we're talking about cost of engagement and reducing that. The cost of these missiles are anywhere from $5 to $3 million to $12 million to shoot. Now we're looking at directed energy, where it takes half a cup of diesel fuel for one engagement. So we're going to have to shift into that, and I think Barking Sands PRMF is going to be one of the great places for us to make that transition to reduce the cost of intercept.
Well, as we've grown with the ability to manufacture this equipment and test it and make it work, I know that there's always been big concerns, and it's a roller coaster about funding and importance and everything else. Is it my imagination, or have the planets lined up, Rick, even in a economic downturn, which we seem to still be in? Don't you think that the events of the day globally have made it more and more easy to explain the need for to have this sophisticated system of defense?
Yeah, I would agree on shrinking budgets and sequestering back in Washington, D.C. This program, missile defense, cyber defense, and special forces have been kept relatively intact while everything else has been reduced. So they understand how important this stuff is. In addition to that, we can't carry the load. We're not the world policemen. We can't carry it. So we've got to use our other allies, and there's probably about 24 of them that are working with us that are sharing this technology so we can plug and play and use their capabilities along with our capabilities to have a much greater capability to stabilize regions. These systems stabilize regions because they take away the threat or the other regional countries like Iran and North Korea's rhetoric on and systems to try and threaten to negotiate and get their terms. This takes that away and ratchets it down and de-escalates the situation. So it's been seen that way. Japan's spending $4.5 billion a year on this system, so it's moving.
The other side of the coin is, and I know over the years that we've had different chats at different times when it has been questionable about funding and everything else, but it just seemed to me, and I saw this. I saw this when I started seeing all of these incidents, starting to see what was going on in Ukraine, started seeing what's going on with the on again, off again, good guy, bad guy relationship we have with Putin. I mean, remember, wasn't it just a couple of years ago that we were worried that we were losing some of these bases in some of these places in Europe, and because of that, and now it seems even more so that we might lose more.
Well, this is one of the key things to show Putin and to strengthen NATO is having this capability in Europe and having a uniform resolve across all the NATO nations to make this happen. And this is going to be a little piece that's going to be, I think, much more effective than a red line, just dropping that in there with our joint resolve to say, hey, we're going to protect NATO. This is where we stand, and we're going to have capability to do that, and there will be consequences.
Yeah, and I think that's so important.
Doing that.
That's so important because this guy is flexing his muscles a lot, and we have an administration that has been not as vehement as when Reagan said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." It looks to me like maybe sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. And what about, Ricky, the number of people that have accused this program of doing nothing but benefiting Israel? I mean, there's a lot of people that say, hey, why are we doing all this stuff for Israel when we don't have the money to take care of ourselves? It's not all about just Israel, is it?
No, we do. We do give a good percent, probably close to 10% of our missile defense funding for development of systems in Israel. But we're using that technology as well as we're stabilizing that arena. Israel can't afford to stabilize that arena. We have to do it because if we don't, there's going to be a world war there. And there's no way we want to go in and deal with that situation. So the best thing is to be able to prevent that and shape that from not happening by giving a little bit of our money to Israel to be able to support that. But the 90% of our funds are going into protecting this country and this nation and your state right here in Hawaii,
yeah, no kidding,
and Alaska from North Korea. That's the number one priority from our nation right now and from the president on that. Now, we've had some issues because this administration had went out and said, hey, we believe that Russia's the key to world peace and that we're going to reset our relations. We're going to be nice to them. We're going to bring them in and they're going to be with us. But that obviously did not happen. And now we're behind the ball a little bit. They've gained quite a bit of influence in the European theater.
You bet. Yeah.
And we have to be able to be strong enough. We're not going to go over there and beat them and fight them, but we have to be strong enough to show resolve and to show deterrence and to show that we're going to stand as a united front and obey international law.
Yeah, and Ricky, I got to tell you, we could talk hours upon this, and I love the fact that we were able to do that. But I'm also telling you that most of the interest happens to be in the vapor trails and the lights in the sky and everything else. I think, though, that this incident, it sparked international curiosity in the scientific community. What are these lights over Hawaii? But it's really cool because the after effect is it points to this wonderful test and the wonderful system. Were you surprised at the number of people that were reacting about these lights in the sky and what did they mean?
Yeah, I was surprised because we launch here quite often, and the vapor trails are happening. I guess the wind really turned those vapor trails when that was a two-stage rocket. So the first stage went off, and the second stage went off, but the vapor was circulated or moved by the air up there.
I can see it. I can see it on Maui, man. I mean, whoa! What is this?
It was something else.
Yeah,
it was right there at the RMF on the western part of the United States, and defense policy didn't want to release that until they were comfortable with the test, and they did it probably 6 or 7 hours
later. But what I think though is the end result has been a renewed interest or a sparking of interest in people that really sort of weren't paying attention. Now, I don't know what's going on over there. Now that they know a little bit and they saw this wonderful video, I think that more and more people are doing it. What about the other side of it? Ricky, I know that you were aware that Congresswoman Gabbard and others are really underlining the importance of that to Hawaii. But from what I understand is Barking Sands is going to go up to the next level. It's going to, the type of facility is going to be changed a little bit. It's going to become even more important.
Absolutely. And the key with Barking Sands is getting enough power over there.
Yeah.
And that's what the number one thing is, to try and generate enough power so you can do the kind of testing that we do. But let's take a look at all of Hawaii, because you've got RIMPAC coming in here. You've got China for the first time coming in here next month. And how important Hawaii is in communicating and deterring and shaping this whole Pacific theater. And this is what we're talking about. All our key missile that are here. We've got Aegis BMD ships at Pearl. We've got the AOC over at Hickam Air Force Base. We've got our 94th AAMDC U.S. Army Command that commands all the Patriot units and THAAD units around the Pacific. And we've got PRMF at the testing ground. So this is a meeting place. This is a place where we can send messages and create partnerships to make this whole region much more stable than it is. And we know this is more important. It's more important than Russia and Europe. China,
I'm so glad to hear you say that.
It's much more important.
Rick, there's another thing, too, and not only is it a huge financial shot in the arm to us, this RIMPAC stuff, but what an opportunity, like you just said. We show all of our allies, and even China, who's participating for the first time in this, look, we have all of this stuff. We're going to be able to take care of ourselves. Now let's work with each other on how to protect the whole area. Do you agree that our ability to show this stuff...
It's a team game.
Yeah.
It's a team game, and we got a big team. China's got one team. We got a big team, and this is bringing the team together and really trying to invite China to say, hey, look, we're here. We're going to be stronger, and are more technologically advanced than you will. You need to get along with us and stay with us instead of disturb or try to contradict what we're doing out here. We want status quo. We want this region to be what it is, and we want people to live in peace.
Yeah, I'm so glad when we get to talk after a successful test that has worldwide implications and everything else. But you said the word team, and it wouldn't be fair unless I asked you, how's young Ellison doing? This kid, your boy, is turned out to be some kind of a football player, Ricky. What's up?
Well, he's taken after Russ Francis and all the Polynesian blood in the NFL. He's doing great. I was almost ready to jump off the chair when they didn't draft Johnny Manziel in the 8th pick, and they picked the UCLA defensive end. But they got Teddy Bridgewater at the end of the draft. He's doing great. Norv Turner is his coach now. Norv was the head coach at San Diego and was my coach at USC 30 years ago. So the circle turned.
Hey, but how did this kid get so big? He's way bigger than you.
Each generation gets bigger, stronger, better than the other. He's a beast. He's coming over here on the 21st with a couple of his teammates.
Oh, man.
So we're going to come over and support the military here. I think we're going to be in Honolulu on the 21st.
Well, we got to get him. We got to get the both of you in studio at that time. I know this time you were spending most of your time on Kauai, but we got to get together and we got to vicariously live through 30 years later, man. What a great thing.
Yeah.
Passing the baton. I know it happens quite a bit in the NFL, and you've talked to a lot of other dads that have players that are playing now that play. But when you think of the number of players and the number of teams, it is pretty unique to have a second generation do as well as the first generation did.
Yeah, well, the other great thing about it is the game really hasn't changed that much.
Yeah,
the mental part of the game in the locker room, it hasn't changed. So the dad can still advise and be pretty correct on his
let me ask you this: when you were playing and your boy was younger, do you think that he just thought that, gee, everybody's dad plays professional football, so I guess I'm going to too? I wonder if that ever happened.
I don't think so. I think most boys they're going to rebel against whatever their dad during that teenage year. So no matter what you do, they're going to try and find their own way to find themselves different than you and more successful than you. I think it's even rare that he would take up the profession. And, for all fathers, if their son falls, whatever profession.
Amen. But just,
it's a treat. It's a treat.
But just out of curiosity, and I know this has come up and it comes up a lot in a lot of families, there's a huge difference in what the players get paid today and what the players get paid 30 years ago. And I would imagine that you've had some heart-to-hearts with your son about, look, you're playing for a bunch of years. This is a terrific opportunity to really salt away for the future. Do you think that more of these young players with this big money are thinking about stuff like that now?
Well, the guys who are thinking about that are in the game for the wrong reasons. You play the game for the love of the game.
You play the game.
The money will come, and for those guys, those are leaders. They're gonna lead no matter what. No matter what their careers are, they're going to continue to lead. It's not about collecting a paycheck and trying to save as much money as you can. It's about playing the game with passion, and you'll get rewarded with that, and you'll have experiences you'll be able to give back to the community, and that's what.
That's kind of the bottom line.
I'm not too worried about the money. I'd never cared about the money. Money's money. It'll come and go.
Yeah, well, that's easy enough. Yeah, that's easy for you to say unless you don't have any at the moment, which is really true. Anyway, my friend, it's always a pleasure. We got to get together. We got to break bread, particularly when the two of you are back here coming up pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll be back on the 21st. I think we're going to be trying to do something with the Koreans and the Japanese and the Americans. So
good idea.
It'll be a fun deal to bring that team together.
Thanks
for what you do, Mike.
Hey,
Keep
always
going,
a pleasure.
Hey,
buddy. Happy trails, safe travels, Rick. So we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
Rick, the incredible Riki Ellison of the Missile Defense Advocacy Alliance. Just go Google missile defense and see the great things happening. I'm late, 25 minutes after the hour. Traffic, mail, and more on The Answer.